The Trojan Blade is presented by Prize Picks. What's up, guys? My name is Gabe, and welcome back to the Trojan Blade. Welcome back to a brand new video. So, over on Twitter, I asked you guys for your hot takes, and of course, we got a ton of responses. Very wide-ranging set of responses that we actually got, but this is going to be a more laid-back video, just going through your guys' hot takes, seeing what you had to say. And yeah, if you are enjoying the videos, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And before we do get into it, I do have to tell you about Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. I love it when you guys hit me up over on Twitter and show me your picks and let me know that you're having a blast playing on Prize Picks. Shout out to you, Jack, Colton, and Reese. And guys, if you want to have fun over on Prize Picks like Jack, Colton, and Reese, all you have to do is click that link down below in the description, sign up with Prize Picks with code HMA, and you're going to get $50 in lineups instantly when you play your first $5 or more lineup. And to create a lineup, all that you got to do, go through, pick some players, all sorts of different sports available, and you're going to pick more or less on a few player stats. Lock in that lineup, and you're good to go. My lineup for you guys today, Dodgers against Giants. I got Freddie Freeman to have more than 1.5 hits, runs, and ribbies, Roop and Sheehan to give up more than half a run in the first inning, and Max Muncy to hit a homer as well. So click that link down below. Use code HMA. All you got to do is play $5 in lineups and you get $50 instantly. A great deal. Support me, support Prize Picks, and get that done. I appreciate you guys being here. Now let's get into the video. All right, first USC football hot take is from Petros Papadakis. He says the Notre Dame rivalry should have remained exactly the same. Now, in the USC fan base, I think this is definitely a hot take. I think the game should have remained. There's no reason why Notre Dame cannot make this a week 0 or a week 1 game every year. Why do they want it to be played later in the season? Because they want that advantage. And yes, it's not breaking news that a Southern California team heading to the cold Midwest in the month of October or November is obviously a big advantage for the Midwest team. And I don't think that's USC being soft. I don't think that's us being babies. If we were just trying to duck this game entirely and we just wanted 3 soft-ass teams on the schedule like we have this year in the non-con, that's a different story. Now, none of us have all the details. There's reporting that comes out of each camp, and it's very slanted towards whoever is leaking this stuff, obviously. So we don't have the full story, but I genuinely believe that we want to play this game. I don't think Lincoln Riley does at all. I think Lincoln Riley likes having 3 soft opponents. I genuinely do. But I don't think USC, the entity, wanted to get rid of this game. I think we wanted it to be played week 0 or week 1. Now, if it's true about us wanting to play at a neutral site, that's chicken shit. That's cowardly. If that's true, shame on us. But yeah, I don't think the rivalry should have remained exactly the same. You can't play the schedule we're playing, Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, and add a trip to South Bend in the month of October. You just can't do that. No one else in the Big Ten is doing that. Move that game to week 1 and we're good to go. But of course, things can't be that simple because when you're working with Notre Dame, the most pretentious, arrogant, awful university in the country, it's not going to be easy. They make it about themselves. They want to be the victims. They have a free ride to the playoff every year. Why would they want to play that game either? They don't. That's the true reality of the situation, but no one wants to hear that. But shout out to Petros for leaving a response. That was pretty damn cool. Next up, we have Alicia de Artola Castillo, obviously from the elite Reign of Troy podcast, one of the staples in the USC media space. She says USC should bring back the chrome helmets, but only for the road. Agree with this 100%. I know a lot of you have some strong opinions on those chrome helmets, but I also think that when a lot of you think of them, you imagine them with the home uniform. The distinction she made here is very important, but only for the road. That's the key right there. Those helmets at home and on the road are a completely different experience. I think back to, 2015 in South Bend, the game where Will Fuller just went nuts. We wore those chrome helmets and we looked fantastic. Such a good look. It keeps the uniform mostly the same, but it adds a little flair and a little variety. That's just nice to see. I'm a massive fan of this idea. I really wish USC would do this. Now, there's been a lot of teasing and chatter on USC Twitter about the possibility of new uniforms entirely, like an all black or an all white. I'm open to all of that if and only if they get it right, which Nike lately has had a lot more hits than misses, in my opinion. I think they've been doing a fantastic job in the college football space, so I would be open to seeing that. But if you want a 100% slam dunk and easy change, that's going to make things look really, really good, Chrome helmets on the road, massive win. Next up from Alex Fazel, hopefully I'm saying that right, man. He says, USC is my dark horse to win the Big Ten. Now, that obviously is quite a hot take. You have Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon. I'd put USC in that number 4 spot in the Big Ten right now. I see some people putting out their power rankings having us 5th behind Michigan. I forget who it was. I wish I remembered so I could properly put them on blast. But someone had us behind Iowa in their power rankings, which, yeah, I don't know. But USC winning the Big Ten, that is a hot take. Although the path is pretty defined if you think about it. You beat Oregon at home, and then you just need to win one of Ohio State or Indiana later in the year. And the thing with Indiana, we're all fairly confident that they're going to be awesome. They made a lot of big splashes in the transfer portal, but whenever you have an overhaul this size and you're bringing in a new quarterback and a new star receiver and all this stuff through the portal, you don't necessarily know how it's going to work. Now, I think Coach Cignetti has earned the benefit of the doubt and then some, but we don't know, right? Ohio State lost a shit ton of talent. That first round was littered with Buckeyes in the NFL draft. So we think we know these teams right now, but in actuality, we don't. Hell, we don't even know our own team. There's so many new pieces on this USC roster. What if we come out guns a-blazing? So there is a path there for USC to win the Big Ten. Now, getting to the Big Ten championship game and winning the Big Ten are two very different things. I think USC making the Big Ten championship this year, likely locking in a spot in the playoff, or definitely locking in a spot in the playoff, I should say. Even if you don't win that Big Ten game, I think that's a massive success. So definitely a hot take. I think just looking on paper, USC is that number 4 team in the Big Ten right now. So curious to see how that unfolds, obviously. Next up from Blackie Chan Gaming from the Light the Torch podcast. Make sure you guys are subscribing to them here on YouTube. He says Mark Bowman will lead this team in receiving touchdowns. Okay, once again, a very hot take. Let's head over to the stats page and let's see what the touchdown distribution was last year. Now, obviously, it's different when you have a guy like Mekhi Lemon. I don't think we're going to have that bona fide number 1 superstar Biletnikoff receiver on this year's team. I think it's going to be more of a committee approach. So looking at touchdowns, Mekhi Lemon had 11, and number 2 on the team was Lake McCree and Jacoby Lane, tied with 4, so off a cliff. Jaden Mayava actually only threw 24 touchdowns last year, so the split was 11 for Lemon, 4 for Lake, 4 for Jacoby, 2 for Tanook, 2 for Walker Lyons, 1 for Jaden Richardson, 1 for Eli Sanders, and 1 for Carson Tabarachi. I believe that was from Hassan Longstreet in the Missouri State game. I could be mistaken. But yeah, I think it's going to be much more of a committee approach this year. And I actually think Jaden's passing touchdown numbers could be down this year. Maybe 21, 22. We're going to have a full stable of running backs. And I think Jaden's going to run the ball more, especially in the red zone. Because, man, we had some red zone struggles this year that could have easily been negated had we just relied more on that quarterback run game, like we saw in the Nebraska game. Without Jaden's legs, we don't win that game. So I think we're going to be seeing more of that. Now, for Mark Bowman to lead the team in touchdowns, what do you think that's going to mean is the question. I don't think we're going to have a guy in double digits like Mekhi was this year. So if Mark Bowman is at 6 or 7, is that going to be enough to lead the team? It might be. So I actually don't think that this is as far-fetched as maybe we think. Because, like, what if Terrell Anderson has 3, and Tanook has 4, and Booby has 2, and Caden Dixon-Wyatt has 3, something like that. Those numbers could be really spread out, and where Mark Bowman could make his money is when you get into that 20-yard line range, abusing defenders with that seam route that Jaden loves to throw. And obviously, he will have the ability to post up when you're really close in as well. So I don't think, the more I talk about this, that it's as hot a take as I thought originally. So I definitely think that is a possibility because Mark is going to be tight end 1, right? We all know that. Now, the interesting thing, are the tight ends going to steal touchdowns from each other? Tanella Tupou, Josiah Jefferson. That'll be very interesting to see. Next up from Fight On, he's at Big Ten SC over on Twitter. He says, I have more questions about Gary Patterson and the defense picking up the scheme than most. Now, I actually don't think that this is a hot take. I do think a lot of USC fans would consider it to be, because I think the majority of SC fans just assume it's going to go swimmingly. Gary Patterson's going to have this defense playing at a top 20 level from jump. But I tend to agree with you. This isn't really a cookie cutter, easy to implement defense. There's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be some kinks. It's going to take a bit before we're operating on all cylinders on the defensive side of the ball. And that's definitely not a hot take. That's very fair to say. So I totally see where you're coming from, and I tend to agree with you. Now, I think it might be hard to tell if the defense has hit a snag early on just because of who we're playing. There's not a real test, and I'm hesitant to even call this a real test, but at Rutgers, against a Greg Schiano team on the road, we'll see if that's a night game or how they schedule that. but that one could be tricky, at least in the first half. So I think we're not going to really know anything defensively until that game. So I don't think that this is as hot a take as probably a majority of the online fan base does. Next up from @NotTodayFedBoy on Twitter. He says, Wafel and Thanos combined for 18 sacks. This is a blazing hot take. 9 sacks apiece for a true freshman and a guy that's going to spend some time inside, but also playing end as well. Man, crazy hot take. I honestly think I'm more confident in Wafel having that higher amount of sacks than Jakeem Stewart, only because of the position he plays. Luke Wafel is going to be a pure end/edge. Get after the quarterback, get those sacks. Jakeem's going to be playing inside. He's not going to be playing at nose, but he is going to be eating up space, taking on double teams, all that kind of stuff. If this happens, obviously, I will take it and then some. This would be massive for this defense to have that kind of production from 2 guys. That's not even factoring in other spots that are giving you numbers as well. But yeah, that's a blazing hot take right there, but I hope you're right. Next up from Fight the F On, he's at USC Trojans FTFO on Twitter. He says Jonas Williams will be the starting quarterback by the end of the year. Blazing hot take. Okay, so I'm going to assume you mean due to performance and not injury. Yeah, that one's wow. Okay, so let's go over what would have to happen for this to come true. If you lose to Oregon, Ohio State, or you know what, it doesn't even matter who you lose to. If you're out of the playoff race by the last 3 or 4 games of the season, then I think we could see this. If and only if Lincoln Riley genuinely believes that Jonas Williams is the future next year, then he could be inserted. But man, for this to happen, things are going to have to go off the rails, which it's USC. That's never something we can just rule out, right? But yeah, this is a blazing hot take. This is one I need you guys to let me know what you think about down below in the comment section. Now, one thing that's interesting about this whole conversation, though, is just Jaden Maiava. Because the problem I think most USC fans have when talking about him and thinking about him is they're comparing him to Carson Palmer, Matt Leinart, Sam Darnold, Caleb Williams. He isn't that, right? He's not a typical Lincoln Riley quarterback in terms of production or star power or playmaking ability or anything like that. What Jaden Maiava is he's a very good college quarterback. He's a high-end starter in all of college football and especially in the Big Ten. I don't think he needs to be anything more than that. Now, would you want him to be? 100%. If Jaden can turn into 35 touchdown Heisman guy this year, I think we're going to be cooking with serious gas and almost a lock for the college football playoff. But is he capable of that? I think he's capable. I just don't think it's very likely. I don't think we're going to play that style of ball. I think when Jaden has too much rope, that's when things can go bad and things break down. But I just think he's misunderstood by a lot of the fan base. They expect him to be the creator, the engine, all of this stuff for the offense. But what he is he's an extension of Lincoln Riley on the field. He operates the offense the way it was intended. He hits guys on time, in stride. Most of the time, he makes good decisions. Now, much like Sam Darnold, he is due for a few terrible ones a game. You just have to hope that the other team doesn't pick up the fumble or catch the pick. But yeah, for Jonas Williams to be the starting quarterback by the end of the year, assuming it's not due to injury, and knock on wood, nothing will happen to anybody on the team, especially the starting quarterback. So assuming there's a clean bill of health, for this to happen, man, oh man, something really went bad during the season. Next up from @SchwellySeason on Twitter, he says Tron Baker will have the biggest impact this year as a freshman. Blazing, scorching, on fire hot take right here. Tron Baker, of all the freshmen, to have the biggest impact. This is a swing for the fences kind of hot take. I think Tron Baker is a very nice player. I think he's very talented. Very good kid as well. But guys, they gave him number 85. I don't think he's going to have that big of an impact this year, I'll be honest. Love the boldness though, but for him to outperform Trent Mosley, Caden Dixon-Wyatt, and Booby Feaster, that would be absolutely extraordinary. And if it does happen and this comes true, for the 2027 season, I'll buy you 2 tickets to any game you want at the Coliseum. Because this, if you nail this call right here, that would be insane. Next up from Mitchell C, he's at MitchellCohen7 on Twitter. He says USC will finish in the top 5, and Maiava is invited to New York City for the Heisman presentation. So he's not going to win it, but he is going to be invited. I can see a path for this. Now, it's a hot take, obviously. To finish in the top 5, you're going to have to be a 1-loss team. So with that, you're obviously invited to the Big Ten championship game. You had a great season. And if Jaden Maiava is invited to New York City for that Heisman presentation, I think that tells us exactly what we need to know about how the season went. And making the case for this for Jaden, let's just throw out the whole Lincoln Riley quarterback thing. That's a talking point. We all know he does a very good job. He has that on his side. And we have a few more hot takes about the receivers. That was really a polarizing topic in the responses, but talking about them at large. If a few of these new guys hit and they're ready to go, then that changes everything. Because for as good as Mekhi Lemon was this last year, until the Oregon game, Tanook Hines was not really there at a level, wasn't really making plays, wasn't really getting open, dropped a few balls. Jacoby Lane, very up and down and inconsistent, as he was during his entire time at USC. And then the rest of the supporting cast was mediocre at best. If this rotation is ready to go and we have numbers and waves, that changes everything for this offense and for Jaden Maiava. So I think that's the biggest deal. Can we produce a tight end? Can our backs be very effective out of the backfield catching the football? And can these receivers step up, get open, make contested catches, and help out their quarterback? Because this is going to be a very young group. There is a scenario where these guys just aren't ready or they take a long time to develop, and Maiava has no chance to get to New York. The thing about Caleb Williams, he could take a receiver like a Taj Washington or a Mario Williams, and he could pull greatness out of them because he was so great. Jaden's an operator and a point guard. He's not an elevator. So I think these wideouts on their own need to come in and be ready to go, if Jaden has any chance of being at that ceremony or winning the trophy. Next up, we have John Castro. He's at DFib for life on Twitter. He says both Waymo and Miller go over 1,000 yards rushing. Wow. Okay, so let's head back to the stat sheet. And when's the last time we had two backs healthy for most of the year? 2022, Travis Dye got hurt late in the year. He had 884. Austin Jones had 705. In 2024, Woody had 1,100. Quentin Joyner had 478. In 23, Marshawn Lloyd had 820. Austin Jones had 477. So this is something that has not happened at USC since Lincoln Riley's been here anyway. And this last year, King Miller had 972. Wayman Jordan had 876. Eli had 264. Obviously, this was all over the place because of the injuries, King Miller's insertion into the lineup in that Michigan game after both guys went down. And we just had some games where we flat out couldn't run the ball at all. So yeah, that's a really hot take. Could I see it happening? Maybe. If both backs have a clean bill of health, if you're playing NCAA Dynasty and the injuries are turned off and we're just good to go for the entire season, then I think there's a chance. I don't think I'd put any money on that though. Next up from Valley Trojan, he's at FightOn818 on Twitter. He says Lincoln Riley doesn't need to make the playoffs to keep his job. So I think that this is a hot take personally because I think he does. I think that the USC administration is done with mediocrity. In year 5, with all the assets that have been poured into this team, with the way they're branding and marketing everything, with the amount of starters we have returning, an entire offensive line, a veteran quarterback, 2 running backs, lots of defenders. He got his pick of DC again, his 3rd defensive coordinator since being at USC. If he can't do it in year 5, then what the hell are we doing, guys? I think the administration sees it that way. The investment that's being poured into football is substantial. That's a major understatement. Very substantial. It feels like more and more as we go on, Chad Bowden is the face of this program. It's being shaped more in his image. We're starting to open up. We're being more fun. We're including the fans. All things Lincoln does not want to do at all. So I think that this is a hot take. If you disagree with me, let me know down below in the comment section. But yeah, I think barring something crazy like a massive injury spell or something, I think he does need to make the playoff to keep his job. I understand where you're coming from though. Most of the time USC wouldn't do something like this, but I think USC is in a different space mentally in how we're operating and who's really making the decisions and pulling the strings. Next up from Frisky Dingo. He is at Frisky Dingo 4242 on Twitter. He says the true freshman wide receivers will all show out this season and Tanook Hines will transfer in the offseason. Man, college football in the 2020s. I would say that this is a hot take, but Deuce Robinson transferred a few years ago. I thought there was no chance that that was going to happen. Zachariah Branch. These things happen. New guys emerge, people leave. Maybe Tanook is so good, and when he comes back for his junior year, a few of the young guys transfer. Maybe Mo Ison pops off and one of the young guys I don't know, right? A million things can happen. I don't think that this is that hot a take. It's just something we see so often in college football, and when we have such a little knowledge of these guys returning. Hell, we don't even know how Tanook Hines is going to be as a number 1 receiver going up against these really good defenses in the Big Ten, not just TCU. I think he's going to be really, really good, but we don't know. So that wide receiver room in 2027 could be unrecognizable from what it is now. Next up from Dan Jeffrey, he's at DanJeffrey9 on Twitter. He says Terrell Anderson will have over 1,000 receiving yards. I don't know if this is that hot a take, I'll be honest. Everyone I talked to that either saw practice, was at a few of the scrimmages, every single time Terrell Anderson is a name, That was mentioned very early on with some of the standouts. He's physical, he gets downfield, and he catches everything that's thrown his way. If this is that security blanket receiver for Jaden Maiava, then absolutely I could see him having over 1,000 yards. Now, we talked about earlier, there's only one ball to go around the park, and we got a lot of mouths to feed. So is anyone going to be over 1,000 yards? Target distribution and allocation is going to be fascinating on this team. But early on, as the young guys are really growing and developing, I'd look for Terrell Anderson to have a lot of balls thrown his way and put up some pretty nice statistical days. Next up from Tony, he's at Alpha Junkie over on Twitter. He says, the fan base isn't as confident as the coaching staff and the linebackers. They haven't prioritized this position, which could have been addressed through recruiting or the transfer portal. We'll see if this decision backfires this year, and if it does, it will fall under this staff. I don't think it's a hot take. I think it's 100% true. I really do. Or saying they haven't prioritized linebacker, it could be that they're just so high on Desmond Stevens and Jaden Walker that they think they are prioritizing it by adding supporting pieces around them. Now, is Desmond Stevens suddenly going to turn into a all-conference kind of linebacker? I don't think so. He could. He absolutely could. Not writing him off by any means. But to just blindly expect that, I don't think is realistic at this point. And yeah, I'm worried about the linebacker spot. I think it's the weakest on the entire team. That and safety. I have a video coming out soon about the safeties. We don't even have a true free safety on this team, so we'll see how that happens and how it plays out. But yeah, you're right. If this choice backfires, there's only one place to point the finger, Lincoln Riley and Chad Bowden, for failing to upgrade this position when it clearly needed to be. So let's hope that Desmond and Jaden are ready to go. God knows we need a better performance from that spot this year. Next up from James Butler. He's at JB Kayak over on Twitter. He says, Riley can't win on the road. Even Coach Carroll had difficulties in the first road conference games. They're tricky. Riley hasn't shown any growth or reason to believe he will win on the road. The difference in team play from home and away is too drastic and will burn him. This is just flat out facts right here. Take USC at home against Michigan and directly compare that to USC on the road in South Bend. That is not the same football team. At home, we're determined, we're driven, we're brave, we're aggressive, we're downhill, we're dominant at times. On the road, we're passive, we're tentative, there's no creativity, we shrink under the spotlight. And that's been the case with Lincoln Riley, outside of Caleb Williams saving his ass a few times. And even that wasn't enough against Utah in 2022. Shout out to the Pac-12 refs. Phantom pass interference and roughing the passer. Anyways, yeah, Riley hasn't shown any growth in that capacity at all. I know people don't want to admit it, but we don't win that Nebraska game if Dylan Raiola gets hurt. Was he lighting us up? No, but he was moving the ball. He could throw a forward pass, unlike their backup quarterback. They waved the white flag as soon as that kid came into the game. So yeah, we've learned nothing. Look how we blew that game against TCU. That was Lincoln Riley in a nutshell, which is why I'm very glad we have Oregon and Ohio State at home. I think that's massive. At home, I think we can play with anybody in the country. I genuinely believe that. But man, on the road, this team wilts. We don't know how to travel. We don't know how to prepare. Is that magically going to change this year? I doubt it. I hope it does. But yeah, if Lincoln can't win on the road, we're going to be in trouble. We lost at Maryland, for God's sakes, guys. Anyways, now with that bad taste in my mouth thinking about that game. To finish up here today, we have at Scoring Guy on Twitter. He says Carson Palmer is going to be the coach when they win their next championship. Obviously a hot take. One that Trojan fans love the sound of, including me. There's something so romantic about the thought of a former Heisman quarterback coming home, leading your team to a national championship. There's also just something about Carson Palmer. He's more beloved than Matt Leinart, and this has nothing to do with Matt. It's not his fault. But what Carson went through at USC, Matt Leinart's like the privileged rich kid that just has no struggles. He had the perfect supporting cast, unreal skill players, an unreal defense in 2004. Carson Palmer got the shit kicked out of him for years until that magical 2002 season with Justin Fargas. Carson took his lumps. He fought so hard. He took an absolute beating. I don't know if there's a more beloved player in USC football history than Carson Palmer. So the thought of that happening, it would be a dream come true, not only for him, not only for the team, but for us as fans. That would be the coolest, most incredible story of our USC football lifetimes, to be honest. Being led by that guy, lifting that trophy at the end of the year. Oh man, there's not a USC fan in the world that would not be in tears seeing that. But we can only dream, we can only pray. And guys, that is going to do it for this hot take episode. Now, this was kind of new for me, new style of video, a little longer. So if you did happen to enjoy it, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate you guys being here. You're all awesome. And as always, take care and fight on.